In today's special episode, we bring on University of Kentucky Police Chief Joe Monroe to discuss recent crime on campus and the initiatives being implemented to enhance campus safety.
We want to remind you that all opinions expressed on this podcast are the speaker's own and do not uphold the opinions expressed by the Kentucky Kernel.
I'm Giana Gallo.
And I'm Owen Chesemore, and this is Catching Up with the Kernel.
We bring on the University of Kentucky's Police Chief, Joe Monroe. Feel free to introduce yourself. How long have you been working for UKPD, and where do you get your experience?
Sure. So I have been at the university since April 4th, 1994. So that's probably longer than most people here have been alive. So I've been here well over 30 years now. I've been the chief of police for 18 years. I started my career at Transylvania for about 2 years as a public safety officer over there. Then I went to the State Police Academy here that most police officers in the state go to in Richmond. So at the Department of Criminal Justice training, I spent almost half a year over there learning police techniques and stuff like that. And then I did a lot of leadership training. I went to the FBI Academy for a while. Was in the FBI Academy in 2005 for 4 months, and with people from all around the world. And the thing about the FBI Academy, there's only 1,000 allowed per year, or invited a year to go. So there's less than, I think, 15,000 people still alive that have been through the academy since its inception in the 1960s.
How long have you been working? How long have you been working for UK again?
I've been working for 30 years.
Okay. You've been here a long time. Can you walk us through the main crime trends you've seen on this campus when you first started and in the more recent years? Are there specific areas or times during the day or night that crime is more prevalent?
Well, a lot of it depends on what the crime we're looking at. Mm-hmm. So if you take, for example, Willie T here, our biggest problem here is usually thefts. And then thefts, what we call crimes of opportunity, because you may go down to Starbucks and been studying up on the third or fourth floor and don't want to take your laptop and all your books with you, and there's nobody around you to watch it for you, so you go down and get your Starbucks and you come back up and it's gone. And those are crimes of opportunity. So, that is an issue around campus as well. LFAs is what we call when somebody breaks into a car and steals items from a car. That's another trend that we used to see a lot of in the parking lots. That is gone down some over the years with the investment of security technology. Putting cameras in the parking lots, more officers, etc. And then, probably more recently, what we've seen an uptick in is crime off campus, but near campus. And a lot of the times it gets reported that it was, on campus, and parents get concerned. So that is an issue, as well as sexual assaults. And we always anticipate an increase in sexual assaults this time of the year, what we call the red zone, across the universities in the United States, because that is where students are away for the first time and are more susceptible to prey of somebody, whether it's getting their drinks spiked or at a bar, or maybe that they've had too much to drink and bad choices are made on both sides. So those are different things that happen. But what we're seeing as well here is we started what we call our Special Victims Unit. And our Special Victims Unit is something I created to really break down the barriers of reporting sexual assaults. Take away that stigma, take away the confusion, take away the process of going through a court proceeding alone. So we're really starting to see more and more reports coming into us because sexual assaults are one of the most underreported crimes on college campuses.
So, what steps are being taken to address those issues? Right, you mentioned the special victims that you created. When I'm also curious, when were the blue or the blue emergency towers put in place, and when were those safety initiatives put in place to help address some of the issues on campus?
So when I started here in '94, we had maybe 10 or 12 of those
Wow.
blue phones, and that's all you saw. And they really weren't blue; they were kind of a old brown yellow color, and they were kind of like the old analog. You all were too young to understand, but there was an analog system where you would dial a phone up, but it was a very old, antiquated system. So when I was tasked with creating some new security measures, one of the things we looked at was those phones. And as technology was evolving about 2012, 2014, we really started seeing, what do we need to change with these phones? The Board of Trustees funded us for a security initiative to really revamp security on campus. And part of that was security technology and leveraging technology for the future. So with those blue phones, now you see well over almost 70 of those on campus, but they're not just a phone. Each one of those is has a camera on top, has a blue light on top so you can see it at night. Then it also has the emergency button to push for UK police assistance, but it also has inside it a what we call a router technology that allows us to do a lot more with that pedestal. Then you have a loudspeaker as well built into it. So when the UK alerts system's activated, you get your text message, you get your phone calls, your emails, but a text to voice also comes out at the top of that in the loudspeaker. So if you're outside, you'll get that message as well. So we're really trying to maximize the coverage and use of those phones, because what we found, those phones were only getting used about 3% of the time, and they're very expensive. They run about $15,000, and so was the money really worth it to put more of those in and replace the antiquated ones? So we did a survey, and overwhelmingly parents and students wanted those phones. So that led us to the point was, all right, we got to keep the phones. How can we get best use out of these phones? And that's when we came up with the multi-use approach with our emergency phones, our cameras, and our loudspeaker and those things. And then we have well over 4,000 cameras now on campus. We have one of the most robust camera systems in the state and probably in the country on a college campus. We use a lot of technology when it comes to the cameras and solving crimes. And now we're getting so many cameras and license plate readers, that we have to really capture these people's license plates or their pictures of them. We just arrested an individual on a sexual assault this weekend. We had him identified within a matter of a couple hours using the camera system. So the camera system really pays off for us. Some of the other things that you're seeing with the uptick in the recent crime off campus, and for example, the cane shooting. With the cane shooting, what we did was immediately, what we say, rally our troops around the university. What can we do to make the campus safer on that North Campus area? So we heard concerns and we addressed the issues. One of them was lighting. So immediately I brought in temporary generator lights for the weekends that light the place up a lot more. You're seeing more officers from Lexington Police as well as UK Police just in that corridor of Limestone and Upper Street. And then we're looking at permanent lighting, more cameras. We're looking at closing our parking garages to only students and special events. So you're not having a lot of these people coming from bars trying to park in the parking garages.
Would you say that you work with Lexington police pretty frequently, or is it like we're divided sides?
No, it's almost a daily occurrence. We have to work together. Chief Weathers and I have been friends for well over 30 years, so we are always texting back and forth or talking to each other about different things going on.
Yeah. Do you feel like you guys are working together to kind of help that off-campus, north, borderline campus area? And what are you guys doing to...
Yeah, so it's kind of a tricky situation because we wouldn't have jurisdiction on one side of the street, but we do on the other. Canes is a perfect example of that. So we have to work hand in hand with our law enforcement partners. So it's really important for us to make sure, one, we're communicating and sharing information, but then also collaboratively working together.
How is the police department collaborating with university administration to improve safety on campus? How does that communication look like?
So I started what we call our Safer Community Committee, and what we do with that is we meet quarterly, if not monthly, depending on what's going on, and really look at what are the issues from Res Life. What are they from public relations? What are they from facilities? What are they from athletics? So we bring all these different partners at the university in to hear the concerns, and then we go back and we work on solutions on to how to make the campus safer.
Let's shift our focus to talking about the emergency responses and how you prepare for those. Can you talk about how the campus police department prepares for emergencies, like someone reporting a sexual assault?
Well, sexual assaults would be differently than like a campus-wide emergency. So sexual assaults, we train the special team of investigators, and so their main focus is personal crimes. So sexual assaults being one of those. And then we have what we call our victims advocate. And our victim advocate works hand in hand with the VIP center and tracks and student success. So we're really bridging that gap that used to be there by bringing law enforcement and support as well as academic support together to really address the issues of how can we help, how can we get the word out, how can we help people who are been survivors of sexual assault. What do we need to do it better? And that's what that group does.
And then could you talk about like what specific measures are put in place for those kind of campus-wide emergencies? So if that might be like a shooting nearby,
Sure.
Or like how do you prepare for something like that?
Yeah, so just like this past May, we did what we call an active aggressor drill. It was a campus-wide active aggressor drill right after school was out. We used Whitehall Classroom before because it was going under construction, so we didn't have to worry about disruption or tearing anything up. And what we did was we brought in role players. We brought in over, I think it was 75 role players to play students and staff in the classroom and in the building. We staged resources for the drill, but we acted like as far as we wouldn't dispatch them because we would just wanted to have it realistic. So if it took 90 seconds for an officer to get there after the call, we held them outside for 90 seconds before they could go in the building to simulate the time. If it wasn't, if it's going to be 3 minutes before the fire department got on scene, we made the fire department wait 3 minutes before they could do anything. So we really made it realistic. And what we did was we brought in Texas A&M Extension Service, who specializes in emergency response, and we had them facilitate the drill and exercise. And we had Moulin Rouge and everything, so it looked realistic. So it really gave the fire department, Lexington Police, and UK Police stress test is what I call it, our response. And did we learn stuff from it? Yeah. We learned what we need to do better. And that's why you do exercises and drills, because you want to learn for the real thing when it happens, what we can be best prepared for. So we do those annually, as well as we do tabletop exercises. And what tabletop exercises are is you bring those key players in and you sit around a table, like a conference room, and somebody facilitates what we call injects into a scenario. What would you do if this happened? And then you discuss it. So we do those as well. So it's really making sure that you're preparing for that unfortunate incident. We also train all of our officers as tactical medics, so they're able to administer stop the bleeding as part of their response. Once the threat is eliminated, they can immediately start treating people and caring for people as well as the paramedics from Lexington Fire Department. So we really take training seriously and spend a lot of resources to make sure that we are prepared for that day when it happens.
And when you talk about situation or shootings that happen at places like Cain's, for example, what are the communication systems that are put in place so that students understand what's happening? And are they helping students stay safe during that kind of incident?
Well, there's a couple different things. One is the one that everybody knows is UK Alert. And everybody is enrolled into UK Alert when you start at the university. You have to disenroll if you don't want the information. I would hope nobody would do that because we don't use UK Alert except for extreme situations that something needs to be done. And people always confuse a crime bulletin with a UK Alert. The UK Alert means we want something to be done, so some action by the people that are receiving that message, whether it's stay away from an area, shelter in place, you need to know that campus is closed, stay home. It requires an action. A crime bulletin, on the other hand, is making you aware of something's happened, and that's under the Clery Act. So those are the differences between those two. So with the UK Alert, you're pushing out this message through text messaging, phone calls, emails, the loudspeakers outside. And we're exploring some new technology as well that we hope to roll out next year and testing it to make sure it works. But we also do, we just signed a contract with Safe Zone, which will replace LiveSafe as our platform for two-way communications in a type of emergency. So if you're in a classroom and somebody comes in there and is being disruptive and threatening, you can quietly text our dispatch and tell them what's going on, even snap a picture, live video, audio, those type of things. It'll also let you do the safe walk. So you can walk somewhere and share your location with a friend, and then if you don't reach there in time, the friend will know. They can try to call you, or it can come straight to the police department. So we are leveraging technology because, and I was just talking about this the other day, technology in law enforcement is the wave of the future. You have to look at how AI and how drones and how cameras and all this stuff can make our life safer. One of the things that we're under construction for a new building. In that new building, we'll be using drones as a first responder. Drones will be able to be launched and on scene with under a minute. So they'll even beat our officers there. And what it'll do is it'll feed video back to our security operations center, so they'll see real time before the officer's even there what's going on. So it's really using technology to get that information out there. It's really using technology to keep our campus safer, and making sure that everybody is armed with that technology in their hand by a cell phone.
How are you improving safety around dorm rooms and in dorm rooms too?
So all our residence halls have access control. We have an issue with tailgating. That we've got a group together that's looking at how do we stop tailgating, or how do we revisit the guest policy in the residence halls with still making it friendly for our residents. So there's a lot of that going on right now behind the scenes on how we can leverage that, either technology or how do we change our operations to make sure that the only people coming in to our facilities are those that have access and there's no tailgating. We have cameras on all the doors. We have the access control on all the doors. We've also added security guards in certain areas that are patrolling outside, in addition to the police officers. So we have contract security, we have campus police. So we're really trying to make sure we keep our campus very safe.
I'm glad you brought up the security too, because we have so many questions regarding this Allied Universal. So how were they the pick? What are they patrolling? I know in the crime bulletins and in some of the emails from the university, they say Willie T and dorms. Is it inside the dorm or around the area?
It should only be in the public area down in the lobby and outside the dorm. They're not going to walk the floors or anything like that. But how they were picked, there was a RFP process with the procurement office here, and I wasn't on the committee, so I don't know how many people applied. But they go through a selection process, and they were the contract vendor that was selected to provide security services to the university for the next year.
Gotcha. And do they report to you or do they report to the university?
So they have different areas. So like the library has a point of contact, and as well as I think College of Business and Economics, or and several areas have it. And so what they do is they have coordination with that point of contact, but ultimately the responsibility comes up through the police department to my office.
Understand. And the last question, I don't know if Owen has any for Allied Universal, is what are their hours? What do their shifts look like?
Yeah, so they vary a lot. The residence hall ones are specifically at night. We don't operate during the day. They're working in the parking garages for us right now, as well at night, especially on the weekends. And their focus on the parking garages, like I said earlier, to make sure that the only people parking are the ones authorized to. They're not the bars and some of these others coming in. And then right now they don't sit at a front desk. But that's one of the things we're looking at. Is it something we need to change and have them sit with a hall director or an RA or a student worker at a front desk? You know, do we need to add that extra layer of security in? And these are all things that we want to hear about. And I would encourage our listeners to email me and let me know what are your concerns. What would you like to see differently, not only from Allied Universal, but for any security. We are always wanting to make sure that we're addressing the concerns and needs.
Yeah. So let's segue into addressing assault specifically on campus. What is the current rate of assault-related incidents on campus, and how does it compare to previous years?
Assaults, as far as sexual assaults or general assaults?
Let's do sexual assaults,
Yeah.
and then if you know general as well.
Yeah, so the sexual assaults that we've seen an uptick on, and we feel like that is probably because we have done a really strong marketing campaign to get people to come to us and talk about them. Some of the ones that come to us, they don't file a police report. They just want to get resources, and that's fine. You don't have to press charges in a sexual assault. Do we want you to? Yes, but it's that person's choice. And so with that, we've seen an uptick in that area, and that's one of the reasons we're really pushing a lot of information out on resources. Our victim advocate has been swamped, and she's really done a great job with that.
How does the university's police department handle investigations regarding sexual assault? What does that process look like? When does it start? What are those steps?
So part of the process is reporting. So we either get notified by somebody in residence life, maybe a hall director, RA who's become aware of it, maybe a friend who's called us and say, hey, need to let you know about this. But ultimately, it's the victim or survivor's responsibility to let us know. We won't go looking for the victim or survivor saying, hey, you need to file this police report, because they have just gone through a very traumatic experience, and we don't want to traumatize them anymore. Or we may get notified from the hospital where a sexual assault examination is going on, and they're required to notify law enforcement. So once the notification has taken place, then we do what we call the interview phase. And that is where we interview the witness or the reporting party, and then we interview the victim survivor. And then if they're going to press charges, we'll continue down a road of, all right, let's start collecting evidence. Let's start looking at suspect information. And unfortunately, 99% of the sexual assaults on this campus are by known offenders. And what I mean by known offenders, it's somebody that the victim or survivor knew. They were out with them at a bar, they were been friends, and it crossed the line without consent. So once we do the investigation phase, collect the evidence, then we interview the suspect, go through that process, and our investigation phase probably takes the longest because we're collecting evidence on wherever the assault took place, as well as camera footage, sign-in logs, all those different type of things. And then it goes from there and kind of parallels. Once our report is made, it goes over to our special victims team. And they immediately activate the victim advocate who reaches out to the survivor, talks to them about resources that they're there to support them, help get them through the whole process of reporting and investigation and the criminal proceedings. And then you have a specialized detective who specializes in sexual assaults to begin the investigation.
What proactive measures are in place to prevent assault, particularly in high-risk situations such as parties or late-night events?
Yeah, so that a lot is what we call the green dot. And with green dot, that was developed here at the university several years ago by Dr. Dorothy Edwards. And in that, you really got to have that bystander intervention. And so if the three of us are out somewhere at a party and, you came, together or best friends and, you go somewhere or I go get you a drink and then you start feeling a little, weird, he should step in and say, hey, let's get you back to your friends. Let's get you back to your residence hall. And the thing is that happens some, but it doesn't happen enough. It's like, I told my kids when they were growing up is you should always have a wingman or a partner that you go someplace with. And if things start going bad, start feeling a little odd, your wingman should be the one to grab you and get you out of there, or wing girl. That is that buddy system, and there's not enough of that buddy system going on that we step in and say, hey, back off, let's get out of here. And I think that along with awareness, we had a couple years ago the shooting at a party over off campus where a lot of students were in a basement, and as soon as the tension started building, if it was me, I would have got out of there, because I recognize those type of situations now through life experiences, but 18, 19, 20, 21-year-old kids don't recognize that because they haven't had those life experiences yet. So that situational awareness is probably one of the most important thing, right next to bystander intervention.
Kind of segueing right into that, what does the department educate students about regarding consent or boundaries?
So we work a lot with the VIP Center and Dean of Students and Student Success Team in really rolling out that information. And we talk about it a lot in our training sessions with students. We talk a lot about it at different events that we host. We've all heard no means no, but the problem is, what if you can't say no because you can't give consent, or you can't give no consent? So the problem with that is we got to make sure that message is getting out, and it's not getting out enough, or it's not being heard enough. It may be getting out, but it's not being heard. I tell my sons all the time, make sure that you're not putting yourself into a situation that you'll regret. Just because you think somebody likes you, you need to take it slow roll it, as I like to call it. Don't jump into something. And it's easy for me to say that as an adult, but kids your all's age or young adults your all's age, they don't see the difference in that sometimes. And that's where we get ourselves into situations that we regret later on in life.
So you've mentioned incidents that can happen off campus. What is the role of campus security or police in monitoring and preventing incidents of assaults at off-campus housing and fraternity or sorority houses?
Yeah, so UK Police has no jurisdiction off-campus parties, events, those type of things. That's where it requires that close collaboration with Lexington Police. So if they respond to something that involves a lot of UK students, they will call us and we will respond over there as well. But what we'll end up doing is a lot of that information is collected and sent to the Dean of Students and Student Success.
And then let's kind of turn our focus to reporting crime and transparency surrounding that. How easy is it for students or faculty to report safety issues or crimes? And what kind of follow-up can they expect once an incident is reported?
Well, let's talk about the first one, transparency. I'm a big proponent in transparency. So everything that we take a report on is posted online. So we have our Clery log and our crime log. So all that is out there online. Now, you talked about the ease of filing a report and the ease of learning how the investigation is going. That is an area that I gave us a C in. We need to do better. And so we're looking at technology right now that will automatically send almost like a customer satisfaction survey to that person that calls police to find out, one, how was our response time? How was the officer's demeanor? How did you feel like the process went? We have to have that feedback to improve. And so we're looking into invest into that technology in the next year and see how we can better prepare ourselves for that response to our, well, I like to say our customers. That is one of our core values in the police department is customer service, because everybody that comes to us is essentially a customer. And so we run it more like that, and so understanding what their feelings are towards the police is really important to me. And so that's why I want to find some tool that will help give us that feedback on how was the process, and where's your case in the investigative process. So we just did a demo on some software that will allow us to do that. It'll let the person who reports a crime not only give us feedback, it'll also update them. Hey, just to let you know, the detective, or this case has been assigned to detective such and such. Detective such and such has filed for a warrant. All these different type of things, it will give you an update on.
And you've mentioned earlier talking about the crime bulletin and that importance with that in terms of transparency. I was wondering if you could explain, because sometimes when the crime bulletin comes out, it might come out a few days after the incident has been reported or occurred. I was just wondering if you could explain why it takes a few days sometimes to get that crime bulletin out.
Yeah, so we like to say we can get them out in 48 hours and meet the Clery deadline. We also want to put out factual information. For years, we were quick to put something out, and then the facts we found out were wrong. And so putting out misinformation quicker can do more harm. So we want to make sure we have the most accurate information, but still meet our timely warning deadlines. So that's why it may take a day or two to push information out, because we want to immediately make sure that we're giving you the most accurate information.
And then what can you tell us about the department's efforts to be transparent about campus crime, the statistics and trends surrounding that? And then are there any recent updates or changes in reporting practices based on being more transparent or the need to be more transparent?
Well, like I was saying earlier, transparency is one of my big things, is making sure that we're very open with everything we do and reporting. And with that, every report we take is on the crime law. Every report, even though it's not a police report, but it's reported by a campus security authority under the Clery law, that's reported in the Clery log. So everything that we do as far as reports is posted out there.
That's a good segue too, because we are both curious, what is the criteria for one of these assaults, or we're just going to label it news, to be published in the crime bulletin to be sent out? Because some of the crime log isn't put in the crime bulletin. So what are those criteria for sending some information to the public?
Okay, I'm not understanding clearly.
So the crime log has everything that has happened on campus, where the bulletin is really just one prominent issue that might have that happened.
Right.
So what are those criterias of how do you know this is going to make a crime bulletin where this is just
Sure.
going to stay on the log?
So if we feel like it's an ongoing threat to the campus, then a crime bulletin is issued. So if there's a sexual assault, even though it's a known offender, but that offender is still on campus or still at large, then we deem that as an ongoing threat, and therefore a crime bulletin goes out.
I understand. What do you think are the most effective safety features currently on UK's campus?
As far as safety features, probably I want to say our camera system. Well, it's all our security technology stuff. I mean, the cameras, the access control. I mean, those are the two big things. And then probably the next thing is our safety app, which we're, like I said, getting ready to redo over the next year. Those to me would be your top three things. Number 4 is not really a feature, but that's situational awareness by the individual.
Our last question for you is, how do you, grade-wise, if you were to give UKPD a grade, what grade would you give them on everything that's happening on campus, how they're handling the situation, reporting it, all of that?
I would give us an A. And I'm not saying that just because I'm the chief, but if I was looking in on it as a consultant, I would say, yeah, you're not an A+, because there's always room for improvement. And I strived, I'm very competitive. And I used to coach football and other sports, and so I'm very competitive, and I want to make sure that we are at the top when it comes to safety. Now, our environment challenges us a little bit because we're in an urban setting right in the middle of downtown. So it's almost like we are an island of ourselves right here at the University of Kentucky on a big island. And so you can't build a fence or a fort around the university. If I could, we would, to protect everything. Then we'd have the utopia of a society that was 100% safe. But I think the best thing we can do is keep improving, keep getting that feedback, and maintaining transparency.
Is there anything else you'd like to add?
Probably the one thing I want to add is, don't ever think that you can't send me an email. I'm a executive that loves to hear feedback. It could be positive or it could be negative. And I look at those emails and we're going to address them. If somebody does a good job, then we'll reward them. We'll give them the recognition. If somebody did not do something and they didn't follow policy, then we're going to address that issue. So I want to know what we do good and what we do bad. And that's the whole reason we were talking about earlier is I want to get that survey tool out to really get more feedback coming in, because we feel like if we are automatically sending somebody an email to complete a survey, they're probably going to be a lot more apt to fill it out versus just typing an email.
Well, we thank you so much for taking your time to answer our questions, and I think we both have a lot of our questions answered, so thank you so much.
Love it. Love being here and love to come back and do more.
We wanted to follow up with some information Chief Monroe brought up about the Clery Act. And this requires colleges and universities to report campus crime data, support victims of violence, and publicly outline the policies and procedures they have put into place to improve campus safety.
We hope you got your questions answered, and if you want to gather any more information about safety issues and what's being done, be sure to check out kykernel.com and follow us on all social media platforms. That's X, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, TikTok, and Spotify.
Thanks for catching up with the Kernel.